So thank you for joining this session. I'm Peter Mansell and I'm the lead for the digital workplace practice in Hewlett Packard Enterprise, part of our Pointnext services division. We focus on advisory and professional services for customers. So in this session, I'm going to talk a little bit about how do we adjust our workplace for the ongoing demands of remote work. So as an organisation, we focus on workplace transformations for customers. So how can we make an enhancement and a change to employees' workplace experience? How can we provide them with the latest cloud technologies? And how can we drive that forward and make that a significant change inside the business? So looking forward to talking to you about this offering today. So as I said, we'll talk a little bit about how do we help businesses make that adjustment for remote workers. How do we make that change and what impact can we actually drive out at the end of it? Of course, in the market today, this is incredibly relevant. We've seen a big change in the way that we have to provide services to end users inside this business. So I'm going to talk you through three things today. First of all, a little bit about the customer challenges that exist in the market. So to set the scene on some of the things that we've seen from our clients, some of the challenges that they pose to us, and hopefully some of the ways that we've helped to solve some of those issues. And then secondly, I'm going to paint a little bit of a picture about what we think the workplace of the future looks like. So this is looking at a combination of both the technology and the people changes that we need to make to provide those better and more effective services to our end users. And remember, our goal here in terms of the workplace is to provide the most productive and innovative environment that we can manage so that our teams and our people can drive change, improve productivity, and ultimately make the organisation more successful. And then I'm going to finish a little bit about how we as Pointnext Services can actually help drive some of that change. So some of the things we've done for other clients and some of the changes that we've made. So let me talk a little bit about the speed element here. So I look at this in three areas really to start with. The speed at which this change has had to happen in the market is really unprecedented. The global pandemic that exists has in many instances required organisations, even whole industries, to switch to remote working over a very short period of time. In some instances, that's been within a couple of days that we've had to shift an entire workforce from perhaps in an office-based or a factory environment to entire remote working. Now, typically with technology changes, you get a chance to plan it, you get a chance to choose the right software technology, you get a chance to implement it, and usually in some sort of pilot phase. Unfortunately, this luxury wasn't afforded to any businesses based on the current challenges, and we just had to make the change now. We had to make it quick, we had to make it efficient. So in terms of that speed, that's required customers to fix what I describe as the most pressing issues. So perhaps things like enhancing the VPN capacity inside an organisation's network. Perhaps it's securing the devices on which we need to provide these services to our end users and our communities. Or perhaps it's providing additional capacity into our virtual desktop infrastructure environments. You know, those are some quick fixes that we can make to drive that change forward. The second thing people have had to consider and take on board is flexibility. And I did break this down into two areas. Number one being the flexibility that we've had to provide to users in terms of the technology that we're getting them to utilise to do their job. You know, we've had to sometimes deploy new technology. We've had to deploy that in a short fashion to get them up and running and delivering their services back to the organisation. And secondly, we've had to become flexible in the way that we provide our working environment. You know, we're no longer in the luxurious scenario of having meeting rooms to go into. You know, many individuals at home have got challenges balancing childcare, and people need flexibility in terms of the way that we run meetings, perhaps the timing of those meetings. And if you're a leader of a team or a leader of a business, now more than ever, your organisation looks to you to provide that flexibility and that guidance. And certainly, as an individual leader in a global team, you know, we've had to implement a number of different things in this environment to ensure that we adapt to our workers' needs and requirements. And then we move on to, in terms of the challenges space, what does the new normal look like? And this is perhaps becoming a somewhat overused phrase in the market, but actually I think for this particular area it describes it perfectly. We are not going to, in the short term, return to a standard office environment. We're going to continue to make changes and adjustments. We're not going to be in a situation where the majority of our staff are office-based, certainly in the not the next 6 to 9 months as a minimum. Today in the market we're seeing organisations return to the office, but we're actually seeing them do that at a very, very slow pace. So perhaps a small percentage of the staff, perhaps only the critical workers that need to be in that office environment. And that pace of change is going to continue for some time. And I can draw on our own experiences in Hewlett Packard Enterprise and the way that which we're approaching the back to work process. As a technology company, naturally our ability to work remotely is very strong. But actually in terms of offices, we will do a very phased approach of returning people to the office environment. There'll be a small number of individuals that return first, only those that are absolutely essential. And those that do return, some of the facilities that exist in the buildings like meeting rooms and shared office spaces will be closed. So we have to take different approaches to the way we do it. So that the new normal definitely applies in this scenario. And I think you'll get customers look at two things in terms of what does that future state look like. Firstly, they'll look at the cost of real estate that exists in the market. I've managed, they'll be thinking to themselves, I've managed over the last 3 to 4 months to actually deliver services remotely. Why do I need all this office space? Can I change it into more of a hot desking or flexible working scenario? That's number one. And then number two is actually the flexibility that we introduce to our employees. We give them the option to work from home, to still be productive with their teams, but to perhaps avoid the challenges of the daily commute. And in some instances, we've seen productivity actually increase in those environments. So those are some of the challenges that we've seen, and I'm drawing on experience within our own business, but also in conversations that we've had with customers for whom we're working on workplace environments. So let me move to talking a little bit about how the workplace of the future and what vision we have for it as Hewlett Packard Enterprise. So we have 4 things that we look at that are spread around the outside of this chart. Firstly, we look at how do we redefine experiences. So that's about providing consistent experience regardless of the device that you're on, whether it be a mobile device, whether it be a desktop, whether it be a laptop, whether it be somebody else's device for which I'm accessing the services. We want to create that same experience and actually, by process of that, redefine the way that we do it. We also want to think a little bit about how do we change those experiences as we move forward. And there's a really good session we've got coming up where we talk about how do we evolve the workplace aggregation technology. So we're running a demo with a product called Citrix Workspace, which actually looks at amalgamating all of the applications that exist inside the end user environment and serving them up in a single tool. So if you're really looking to take that next step, I'd encourage you to look at some of those aggregation technologies. They make a huge difference in terms of productivity. And then we talk a little bit about platform independence. So that's where we look at how do we separate the application layer from perhaps the underlying platform on which we're running. So we get that flexibility that we can introduce. You could do that sometimes from SaaS applications, but there also sometimes needs to be a different approach that we take. Then we look at simplified application deployment. So in most enterprise customers, you have a mix of SaaS applications, you have a mix of on-prem applications, and actually what we need to do is to provide a way of simplifying the deployment of all of those technologies. And that means making sure the applications are ready for the latest technology, the latest Windows 10 rollout, or the latest change that may exist in the cloud software. And that's really important to create that consistent but also secure experience as well. Then we look a little bit about modernize and move in the environment. So that's about how we drive that change. And I'll break this down into 2 areas. When we talk about modernize, we mean looking at your application estate and trying to understand how many different tools you've got to do the same job. And when I look at a lot of enterprise customers, I go in and see actually they've got two or three software tools to do the same job, or they've got a separate tool for audio conferencing and video conferencing, a separate tool for mail and messaging, a separate tool for file sharing. That's not a great scenario to be in, and you want to try and modernize that and move to an integrated cloud-based platform. It will absolutely drive down your operational costs, but probably more importantly, it will improve your productivity for your user groups. And the second part of that element is the move to cloud. So we spend a lot of time with customers trying to help them move to Microsoft 365 as a solution for those workplace services. All of these four things are underpinned by three pillars in the middle of that process. Number one, how do we drive intelligence in what we do? So this could be as simple as helping locate and share information, but it can also extend to providing a personalized experience for those individuals and those employees. Secondly, it's about evolving your operating model. If you move to cloud technology, the same requirements for operating and running that environment exist. And you need to ensure that you've got the right tools and technologies to actually enable us to do that. And lastly, and probably most importantly, is the security element of what we do here. We need to make sure that we're securing these applications in the right way. We need to make sure that we're preventing loss of IP leakage and data information outside of the company. And when you think about the type of things that you do within your teams and the type of data you collaborate on, majority of it is company confidential. A majority of it is IP protected data. I look at some, again, drawing on our own experiences, we share financial information internally within my team, we share customer and client details. You need to make sure that security is in place to protect that information. And that becomes even harder when suddenly you've moved everybody to a remote environment, perhaps not working on clear corporate devices. So that's really important to get right. And actually, unfortunately, in the current crisis with remote working, we've seen a real acceleration in security scams from criminal organisations. So it's even more important that we get that right. And there's one final thing I'll add on security, actually, which is a point sometimes missed, is you can have the best tools and technologies in place in the world, but if you don't put the right governance layer in terms of the way you structure the files and the data storage, you will have a similar challenge to not having the right security tools in place. So that's equally as important to the technology that you put in place. Who has access to what and when do they have it? So what we're aiming for here on the Workplace of the Future is to achieve an ultimate goal, which is everything as a service. So we create a financial and operational transparency in what we do. We're able to roll out cloud technologies as soon as they become available, and that's the goal that we're driving towards. So let me close this session by talking about how we as Pointnext Services can actually help with that process. So we look at three things. Number one being, how can we provide a fast start set of services to our customers to get them up and running quickly, to make that on-ramp really short for them. We deliver those today around Connect and Protect, so both our security and networking services. We deliver that around the Microsoft Teams platform to help customers drive usage of that platform and improve their collaboration. And we also help do that around VDI assessments and rapid assessments to deliver a current state and a future state guidance for those environments. So there's some quick approaches we can take with customers to help make that change. Number two is we look at the longer term strategy inside the business. So I talked about the new normal on the first slide. This challenge of remote work is absolutely not going to go away. So we could spend some time with you talking through how does your long-term workplace and digital transformation look inside your business. Some of that's assessing the environment that we've got today, and some of it's planning a future roadmap. And then we also work on all the Microsoft tools that exist in the market. So that's helping a customer move to perhaps the latest version of Exchange or SharePoint, or move to 365 as a whole. In addition to that, we also spend time on management of change. So that's how do we help the people part of any technology change. I've not talked about that much today, but actually that's a really important topic in its own right. It's great that I've got new software and tools to roll out to enable remote working, but if I don't teach people how to use it and I don't show them the benefit that it can provide, I've wasted that investment and I've wasted my time doing that. So we spend a lot of time on the people aspect. And then we finish with how we deliver some of these options as a service. So we've got an excellent platform in our HPE GreenLake solution, which is an as-a-service product and offering. That is designed to drive granularity in that pricing and that operational model. As have we got ongoing operational services that we can provide as a business and drive that forward. As HPE Pointnext, I'm pleased to say we've recently been named a leader in IDC's MarketScape for Digital Workplace Services, so a report completed earlier this year. And we spent time with IDC talking through the services that we provide and then talking to a number of our customers that we've provided those services to. So pleased to be named as a leader in that quadrant, and hopefully that gives you some idea of the experience and capability that we've got in this area. Thank you very much for joining me during this session. I hope you found it useful. Thank you.